Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
Thanks, Ciarán Comhairle. 2 weeks ago, I raised the crisis facing Sacred Heart Junior National School in Killinarden with the Taoiseach. It was forced to write to the Department of Education saying that it would close its doors because it couldn't pay the bills. It first flagged a shortfall of €26,000 last October. The crisis worsened. They were in touch with the department repeatedly, but no extra funding was forthcoming. The Taoiseach 2 weeks ago said, "I believe the issue is resolved." The issue is not resolved, Taoiseach. The can is simply kicked down the road by providing an advance on capitation funding, which means, yes, the school is open today, but the debt will be even worse come September. Sacred Heart Junior School is just the canary in the coal mine. I know the senior school at Sacred Heart faces a funding crisis come September. Last Friday, I was contacted by the principal of another school, Holy Spirit Junior Primary School in Greenhills. Listen to what she has to say. "The fact of the matter is, we have approximately €8,000 in the bank. From this €8,000, we are expected to pay €10,000 worth of utility bills, pay a caretaker, a bus escort and cleaner wages, buy resources for students, employ a plumber for a terrible smell on a corridor, not to mention all the other general maintenance costs, including the upkeep of our school building and grounds. The school states clearly that without adequate financial support from the department, they are facing, quote, the very real possibility of having to close our doors." Taoiseach, you know these are not two isolated examples. I know of others just in my own constituency. 7 out of 10 primary schools nationwide are running deficits. Hundreds are in acute financial distress. And the cause is clear. It was recognised by this Dáil last June, where it passed a motion saying that we have chronic underfunding of our primary schools. These schools have been just about surviving with cost of living supports that you now appear to be planning to stop. It leaves schools in the situation where they're expected to fundraise for the very basics to keep the schools open. It deepens educational inequality. It puts added stress on school communities. But the government is still throwing money at private schools. Last year, the government spent €143 million paying the salaries of teachers in private fee-paying schools and gave them ICT and capital funding grants worth €1.9 million. But our public primary schools are faced with potential closure because the state refuses to adequately fund them. Taoiseach, will you and your government act to enable our primary schools to remain open? Do you accept that advance funding is not a long-term solution to the crisis facing these schools? Will you commit to doubling the capitation grant for primary schools and increasing the minor works grant and ancillary grant services grant? And finally, will you outline what the new Debt Plus status, which is promised in the programme for government, will mean? What extra funding will be provided?
Taoiseach to respond.
First of all, no school should be in that position, and I don't believe there was a necessity to write that letter to the parents at that time. Be frank about it. I have a long time involvement in education. I have a lot of experience with the education world. And in the past, and at any time the school was in difficulty, dialogue opened up with the department, and the department always came in to help, particularly in extremis, or if a school was in extremis or was in difficulty. My understanding is the department engaged with the school, with Sacred Heart in December, that's my understanding, sought information, the department did, but didn't get any response in terms of the information provision. The department will continue to engage. The department were unaware of any letter being sent out to the parents at the time. So I would say to schools generally, if you're in really dire circumstances where you feel the necessity to write to the parents, you should contact the department. The capitation grant has increased significantly over the last 2 years, in particular 3 years, and even during the cost of living increases there was very substantial allocations, and during COVID-19 in particular, way above the norm. And again, if you look at the investment in education over the last 4 years, it has been huge. On current capital, special education, the DESH programme was widened and expanded very, very significantly, the largest expansion of DESH ever, with consequential improved funding with that, and teaching posts and so on. That said, we do acknowledge there have been inflationary pressures on schools. because of the crisis that was occasioned by the energy crisis resulting from the Ukraine war, the post-COVID issue in terms of inflation. And the Minister and the Department will work with schools that are in difficulty. We will also continue to improve the capitation rates that are paid to school. And there have been other supports as well in terms of other positions within primary schools and other specific supports around technology and so forth. Suffice to say that by any yardstick, the investment in education has increased very significantly in the last number of years, notwithstanding all the pressures that people are facing, and I acknowledge that.
Deputy Murphy, or Taoiseach, thank you, Deputy Murphy.
Quite incredible. The Taoiseach blaming a school, put in a position by your government, by the Department of Education, blaming them for being in a situation where they felt no alternative but to say we're going to close our doors. Incredible. Victim blaming and gaslighting these principals across the country who do not likely want to be in this position. The Taoiseach says, well, the department was in touch in December and there was no response. Do you know what the department said? The FSSU, which is the financial unit in the department, it contacted the principal and told the principal to reach out to her community to help fund the school in December. Shameful. These are not charities, Taoiseach. These principals shouldn't be running around having to fundraise based on how much money is in their area, based on how much population is served by their school. This is a basic public service which the state needs to provide. I'm giving you two examples in my just one constituency of schools that are saying we're going to have no choice if we don't get more money but to close our schools. This Dáil, in a motion proposed by your Minister, Minister Harkin, recognised that there was chronic underfunding of our primary schools. You now seem to be stepping back from that acknowledgement. The answer is not to victim blame the principals, not to victim blame the schools, provide proper funding for our primary schools so they're not placed in this situation.
Deputy, you have an awful habit of trying to name, call and label people, and you do it for political reasons. Sometimes I question your sincerity in relation to these matters, because a letter was sent. I'm just saying what happened. Okay? I'm not victim blaming anybody, and I was making a general message. I've been through this before with schools, and we help schools when they engage with the department. It has happened, different times. Different school might be in a particular problem. A letter was sent to the Chair of the Board on the 14th of March outlining the importance of the role of the FSSU, that's the Financial Support Services Unit. It's there for a reason, on behalf of the Department in supporting the school. The Department has engaged with the school since December, has asked the school to provide further information about the school's financial situations, which says here, which it is still, may have got it since. We'd urge the school and the manager to engage fully with the department. It's currently, engaging with that unit for this purpose. It did, as you say, got into to deal with the immediate cash flow issues. A capitation grant funding due to be paid to the school was advanced. And I have no doubt that the department will be in a position to resolve those issues for the school in a sensible way. And that's how to do things. That's all I'm simply saying. I'm not victim blaming anybody, but I would make the point, Deputy, that, every child attending that school now has free primary school books, which they never had before. Right? Because the last government took really decisive decisions on making life better for kids in all schools. Hot school meals is another initiative that was taken. But you ignore all of that and you kind of make assertions of sort of neglect or whatever, which is not the case.
In accordance with standing order.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.